Welcome to the Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. Who's ready to learn about goats? Whether you're already a goat owner or are dreaming about getting some of your own one day, this is the episode for you. Kenny Coogan talks with Jon Kain, a goat owner and the co-host and creator of Ringside, an American dairy goat podcast. We'll be talking with Jon all about dairy goats, including raising and milking them. This is Mother Earth News.
We here at Mother Earth News enjoy hosting in-person fairs, and you can see a list of upcoming locations at motherearthnewsfair.com. We are also excited to present you with the opportunity to get that self-reliant, can-do content for the whole family right from your own home. All you have to do is go to online.motherearthnewsfair.com and sign up for your favorite programs. Use the code FAIRGUEST for $5 off at checkout.
Our last fair of 2023 is coming up in West Bend, Wisconsin, September 16th to 17th.
Good day, everyone, and we appreciate you for joining us on another exciting Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. I am Kenny Coogan, and joining me today is Jon Kain, co-host and creator of Ringside, an American dairy goat podcast. At Mother Earth News for 50 years and counting, we have been dedicated to conserving our planet's natural resources while helping you conserve your financial resources. Today, we are going to learn about raising and milking dairy goats. Welcome to the podcast, Jon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on.
And we are very excited to have you. And can you share with the listeners how long you've been keeping goats and what breeds you have and what your size of herd currently looks like?
Absolutely. So I'm Jon Kain. I'm the owner of Hilaire Farm of Scotts Circle. We've been raising dairy goats actually for a pretty short time. We're working on our 7th kidding season next year. So 7 years we've been in it. And we raise Oberhasli. We have some experimentals, which are just AKA registered mutts. We've had Guernseys in the past, which is a newer breed for dairy goats, and we've dispersed them. We've had Nigerian dwarf goats. We've dipped our toes with a few different breeds, but we really like our Oberhasli goats, so we've been sticking with them. And yeah, we've got a herd right now of 11. We've cut down pretty hard and are kind of building our herd back up.
For the experimentals, do you or should you keep records of the parents?
Yes. So everything that we have is registered with the American Dairy Goat Association. So you can look back in my animals' pedigrees. Right now, I have 3 experimental goats, and one of them is 25% Nubian. And then another one is a daughter who's, according to the ADGA records, is 13% Nubian. And then we actually have one remaining Guernsey type experimental who is 50% Guernsey and 50% Oberhasli.
And you're able to show them?
Yep. So right now, the Guernsey goats are kind of in a weird place with the American Dairy Goat Association, where they're being shown on stamped duplicates of their registration applications. With the new system, they haven't been able to be actually registered in the system yet, but you can still show them on that stamped duplicate, and same with any experimental.
Now, in the intro, I mentioned that you have a podcast that's pretty new. It's called Ringside, an American dairy goat podcast. And can you tell our listeners what your podcast is about?
Sure. So we started the podcast back in 2020, me and a friend, Nate Funk, and we just kept it going. Since then, I have a new co-host, Danielle Caroli. We cover everything dairy goat. We do focus a little bit on the show side, performance programs like linear appraisal, milk test, but we also talk to veterinarians, big breeders, we talk to judges, anybody that's excited about dairy goats, we talk to.
Very good. So speaking of that, why should listeners consider adding dairy goats to their homestead or backyard?
Absolutely. I mean, goats are awesome, right? I mean, I don't know if you've been around dairy goats or any goat for that matter. They're very personable, very awesome little animals that aren't too terrible to keep. It's kind of like the step up from chickens. You see a lot of people, they start out with chickens and then they graduate to the dairy goats or the sheep and then go from there. And dairy goats are really personable. They're not huge, so they're manageable, even for somebody that could be even older or have any issues. The nice thing about dairy goats is, hey, you get milk. So you're able to milk that animal and you can do a lot of things with that milk. I think those are pretty good reasons why you should have them.
Do you know what the largest dairy goat breed is?
So there's a lot of breeds that are trending up in size. Sonnens are the largest, along with Nubians can be very big, especially the bucks. Those things can be massive. But if you're looking for size, really it's the Sonnens, Alpines, and they're going to be like the big goats.
So of course, the larger the goat, the more space we need, but can you kind of give us an average of how much space would a dairy goat require and what would be the minimum herd to keep the goats happy?
Goats need about 25 to 50 square feet of space. So you want to kind of keep it around that area. One thing that I see a lot, especially with some homesteaders, is there's either a lot of area, which is awesome, or it's going to be kind of a smaller barn or a smaller dry lot for them or acreage. So you want to try to keep it between the 25 and 50 square feet. And I suggest that if you're going to be building a barn or something for these animals, you build bigger than what you're going to get initially because they're like potato chips. You can't have just one. And as far as herd size, you want to have at least two animals together. If whether it's a doe and a wether, a castrated male, two does, two bucks for some reason, if you like stinky boys just by themselves, you want to have them together because they're a herd animal and they need to have that camaraderie.
Is it common for people to just have adult females and lone males for breeding purposes?
You don't see people with just one female and one male too often, and I don't suggest that. The buck is going to pester the female quite a bit. He'll eventually breed her and she'll kid, and then after she kids, she can come into heat a couple weeks later, and the whole process can start, and that's not really healthy for the animal. So you don't see it too often. A lot of times what I'll see if somebody's starting out is they'll get like one female and a castrated male, also known as a wether.
And what's the benefit of having a wether?
We started out with a doe and a wether when we got our first two Oberhasli. And the nice thing is the wether, they don't get stinky like a buck. Usually they're the most personable animal in the herd just because what else do they have to do besides be friendly? So there's benefits there and also a companion for your other female.
Do they provide any like protection
Not
or they can be preyed
not
upon
really.
just like the females?
Yeah, they just buddy up with the females, and the nice thing is with wethers, if you breed the female to an outside buck or something, and she has kids, you can also kind of rotate wethers. And I know not everybody eats goat, but they can also serve that purpose as well.
All right, so the main purpose for dairy goats is milk. So can
That's
you
for
talk
sure.
about the benefits of drinking or eating goat milk?
Goat milk is delicious when handled properly. You hear a lot of times people say, "Oh, it's very goaty in flavor. I don't like goat milk." Well, if you handle the milk properly, you're not going to have that goaty flavor. The nice thing about goat milk is it's really digestible, right? So anybody that has like a lactose issue, that milk's really good for them to digest. And I have friends that have had goat milk and they're shocked that they were able to have it with no issues. It's packed with calcium. It's got plenty of vitamins. It's really a healthy choice if you can't have cow's milk. And there's the taste difference when handled correctly is by far, I guess you could say, if you did a taste test, it would be kind of hard to tell. There are differences where the butterfat can be a little bit different depending on the breeds of goats that we're talking about, which we'll get into. The nice thing about goat milk also is you can make goat cheese for yourself, for your family. Chèvre is great. You can make goat milk soap, which we do, and it's great for your skin. If you have bucks, it's great for getting that buck smell out of your hands and arms or whatever. So there's a lot of uses for goat milk for sure.
I'm really interested in these experimental goats. So
Okay.
what should people look for when getting foundation stock, regarding breeds? And
Yeah,
then do you recommend people breeding their own experimentals?
I do. So I'll get into that here. As far as getting into foundation stock, some things to look for are conformationally correct animals. And I'm not talking about somebody who's in a homestead needs to get a show goat that can compete on a national level. But you can go to breeders that breed American Dairy Goat Association or AGS registered animals, and they might have an animal that's not show quality, but still has the parts where they're not going to fall apart over time. So when you're starting out, if you can find a breeder that has animals that might not be on their show string, but they'll sell to you for a backyard milker, that's a win-win because those animals are going to last a long time. That mammary system probably will last a while. Udder health is really important, which we'll get into. Foundation stock, when you're looking into breeds, that's the fun part. Everybody should be able to look into what animals they want, what breeds they're looking for. If you want the small Nigerian dwarf because you have a small space, that's a really cool breed to get into. If you want to get something that's a little bit different, like a La Mancha that doesn't have big pointy ears or long floppy ears, they've got gopher ears. They're fun and they're sweet animals and kind of goofy. You can get, if you want a medium-sized goat, Oberhasli, Toggenburg, they're really cool animals to get into as well because they're medium size. And if you want more production, you can always get a Saanen or Alpine. They really pump out the milk. And then if you want something that's kind of goofy, maybe a little loud, don't tell my co-host Danielle Caroli I said that. Floppy-eared goats, Nubians are your goat. So there's a really cool thing where you can just kind of decide what you like. It's like picking a breed of dog that you like for your house, right? So as far as that goes, it's the sky's the limit. As far as experimentals that you're interested in, that's where it gets kind of fun. So say you like Sonnens, but you don't want a huge Sonnen. You find something that maybe it's a Sonnen mixed with an Oberhasli. So you've got kind of a more compact Sonnen, but still has a lot more production. Or people go with the Mini Dairy Goat Association or registry animals, and they get Oberhasli mixed with Nigerians that are registered, and they're smaller but bigger than a Nigerian. Experimentals are pretty fun because the sky's the limit for standard breeds. You can't mix them with American Dairy Goat Association with Nigerian dwarf goats. That's a closed herd book. But for any of the standard breeds, people look into, say, Toggenburg and Oberhasli mixes, not only because it's a fun looking animal, but there's also kind of like a hybrid vigor with them. They last a little bit longer. They're kind of healthier just because this two total outcross animals coming together and creating this kind of superstar.
I love how you listed like a lot of breeds and their traits. Have you noticed any traits that overpower, when you're breeding like the male to female? Does that combination make a difference in like body size or milk production or heat tolerance?
It can. So when I'm breeding certain bucks to certain does, it's you're kind of rolling the dice, but at the same time, if you used a buck for enough seasons, you kind of know what he throws. So say you have a buck that has really well attached udders that he throws, and you have a doe that might not have a really well attached udder. It can help with that attachment rate. So you have a healthier udder for that memory system for that doe that is created. As far as heat tolerance and all that, it kind of depends on where you're at and what lines you're using. If I'm in New York. If I'm going to sell to somebody in, say, Georgia, and they've got high coccidia issues, worm issues, I'm going to tell them, hey, I don't deal with a ton of worms up here. I'll worm when needed. I know down south it's kind of a huge issue. So I don't know what kind of vigor they're going to have as far as worms go. So if you're in an area where you're hot, humid, a lot of rain, muck, and worms can be an issue, you might not want to get something from Minnesota to bring down to Georgia. You might want to look somewhere in the South with a herd that has built really healthy animals that can.
So we're talking about like different temperatures and different regions. Is dairy goat husbandry different than other goat breed husbandry?
I believe so. When you look at meat goats, say Kikos or Boer goats, when you're looking at those animals, a lot of times they're kind of in a field and they'll have hay, but they're not getting a ton of grain unless they've got kids on their side. They're just hay, water, and whatever they can forage, and they're kind of set it and forget it. Dairy goats are a little bit different, where they need a little bit more hand holding, as I put it. Especially if they're in milk and you're milking them, they need a certain diet where you want alfalfa hay if you can get it, or a really great second or third cut grass hay. You're going to want to give them packed grain full of protein and vitamins and carbs and fat, something that will be able to help them sustain their body condition throughout their lactation. Where Boer goats, you're not worrying about their lactation. As soon as the kids weaned, they're drying off and they're good. So yeah, there's a little bit of difference there. You can do the same thing with dairy goats as you do with Boer goats and have them in a field and have them raise their kids, but you're going to want to definitely feed them a little bit different.
Have you noticed their flavor of milk changing based on what they eat?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of different types of weeds around here, but my goats especially like poison oak, poison sumac, all that good stuff. And let me tell you, folks, when you're hand milking and you don't know they got into the poison sumac, not a great time.
That's a
But you
great
can,
tip.
yeah, but you can definitely taste what they've been eating when I put my goats out to, usually towards the end of the season, once I have them go out onto the field and clear some brush and I have some milk. I'm like, okay, that tastes a little bit weird. So I'm like, when they're eating alfalfa and they're on a dry lot eating hay, it's definitely more of a common milk taste instead of whatever they're eating for the day out in the field.
If you put them out to pasture, does the milk flavor profile change like after a day, or do you have to change their diet, for a week or two to really notice it?
It's usually like a day after. If I have them out there the next day, I can taste it because they're making that milk right away. Every 12 hours, they're getting milk.
All right, we're going to take a quick break in our conversation to hear a word from our sponsor. And when we return, we will learn the best goat breeds for milk.
We here at Mother Earth News enjoy hosting in-person fairs, and you can see a list of upcoming locations at motherearthnewsfair.com. We are also excited to present you with the opportunity to get that self-reliant, can-do content for the whole family right from your own home. All you have to do is go to online.motherearthnewsfair.com and sign up for your favorite programs.
Our last fair of 2023 is coming up in West Bend, Wisconsin, September 16th to 17th. And now, back to our conversation with Jon Kain.
Goat farmer and co-host and creator of Ringside, an American dairy goat podcast. So, Jon, can you give us just a handful of some of your favorite or the most productive goat breeds for milk purposes?
Absolutely. So Saanens are going to be your Holsteins of the goat world. They produce anywhere, and this is just average, 2,500 to 3,500, but they definitely go up to 5,500, 6,000 on milk tests with the American Dairy Goat Association. They really pump it out. And right behind them, and I mean right behind them, are Alpines, whether it's French Alpines or American Alpines. They pump out the milk too. I will say, for their size, the Nigerian dwarf goat is producing a bunch of milk, and their butter fat is right up there with Nubians. And they're producing about anywhere from one, if it's a kind of a poor genetic lined Nigerian, to 8 pounds a day. And that's a lot for their little size when you think about the balance of the animal.
And how long do they produce the milk for? I'm sure it depends on the breed.
Yeah, it Kind of depends on the animal and the breed. If you're milking them twice a day, every 12 hours, people milk them through. So they'll start milking them when they kid, and they'll milk them all the way through for an extended year afterwards. So where most people are drying theirs off, say in the winter before they kid, in say 30 days before they kid, they'll keep them going, and that way they don't have to breed that goat again if they don't need that many kids, but they can keep that production going. And they'll keep them going for a year or two, then they'll dry them off, breed them again, or have them bred and then dry off, and it kind of cycle continues. So any breed will do that. How much they produce while you're doing that depends on the animal and their genetics, but really the most powerful productor is the Saanens.
All right, so a goat will have their kid, and then when can you start milking them?
So on our farm, our goats kid, and we bottle feed. So I know it's a kind of controversial thing, right? But for our farm, for our purposes, for our animals, we bottle feed them. So we'll let mom dry them off, and we'll take them from mom, and we'll milk the colostrum right then and there. We'll give mom vitamins, hot molasses water, let her bounce back. We'll milk her and get her all set, and then we'll go feed those kids that colostrum as soon as we heat treat it. And so we're milking them right from the get-go. Every day after that, every 12 hours, we're milking them.
And can you talk a little bit more about dam raising and
Sure.
and your viewpoint versus bottle feeding?
Yeah. So people dam raise, and even show homes, these people that register with the American Dairy Goat Association, they dam raise, or they'll kind of co-raise the kids, where they'll let the kids stay on the mom, but they'll still milk the mom so that it keeps the udder a level, because sometimes kids decide they like one side and not the other. So to stave off any infection, they'll co-raise and milk that mom. And then there's also people that just let the doe do whatever she wants, raise the kid, let them do their thing and have fun. And that's great. I love that. I wish I could do that, but with what the purpose for our farm is, it's just not feasible. So we bottle raise our kids for many reasons. One is we heat treat the milk, so we pasteurize the milk. And the reason for that is to stave off, say we pick up CAE from a show, or any bad diseases. That's going to keep that with the dam, but not give it to the kid, because we're pasteurizing that milk and getting rid of all that bad, icky stuff. Another reason why we bottle raise is because the kids kind of tend to be a lot sweeter, more in your pocket. It can be a detriment when you're at a show and you've got a kid that's trying to find food in your pocket instead of paying attention to what's going on, but they're easier to handle. I don't have to catch them. There's no wild goats that are jumping off the roof of the barn. Funny story is, when we got our Guernseys, we got them from a legendary Guernsey breeder who helped this breed get to where they are, Joan Stump. And Joan is an older woman who has a lot of kids born every year. So what she does is she feeds the kids bottles, but instead of holding the bottles with them, she just puts them in the tray and walks away. So we go to pick up our first foundation 2 does from her, and everything's great. We catch the kids, they're good to go. We get them home, and they are like deer. Because they're not used to being cuddled or pet while they're being fed the bottle. They're just used to human brings the food and they walk away, and we don't mess with them. So it took a while for them, and I mean a while, for them to calm down. It took until they were 2-year-olds for them to really calm down. But it's just, with that, it kind of made me realize, okay, I definitely am bottle raising these kids for a reason, because I can't deal with wild animals like this.
So for some backyard hobbyist farmers and people who wanting to take the leap from chickens to goats, it might seem like a big step in husbandry. What are the essential or basic pieces of equipment that you need to milk a goat?
Absolutely. Well, first thing, get the goats, which we covered. Second thing, well, actually, first thing is set up your place for goats, and then get the goats. So for goats, what you're going to want to do is make sure that you have good fencing. And it doesn't have to be $1 million beautiful fencing, no climb woven wire. That's ideal. But a lot of people, especially with homesteaders, we love Premier One, right? Premier One's got those woven wire fences that you can hook up to the electrifier and turn it on, and there you go. Electricity is going to be your friend with goats, let me tell you. I run on my farm a 4-wire fence, and it's hot wire. It's great for standard goats. It's terrible for Nigerians when we had them. They got out constantly, and it was just like, oh, they're out again. Oh, wave to them. Okay, good. Right. They didn't go anywhere, but it was just kind of a pain. So you want a hot fence that's going to withstand them. We have total opposite fencing for our bucks, right? We started out with poultry on our farm. We started with chickens and ducks. And once we got rid of the chickens and ducks because we were tired of cleaning eggs and selling them, we were like, we're going to get goats. So when we got our bucks, we were like, okay, let's fix up this duck pen because the barn for the ducks was big enough that we can throw them in there. And the fencing was okay, right? It was kind of like no climb. It was welded wire, really, fencing. Since then, the bucks, when they're in rut, are terrible on fences. And this is where the homesteader side comes in. I realized that electric fencing, when they're in rut, doesn't really work the best. And it's kind of hard to do when you're getting tons of rain and the wire's getting grounded on something because it's kind of in a woodsy area. So we built the homesteader way, a pallet fence, and it keeps them in. And every once in a while, we'll have to grab a pallet out and put a new one in. But that's way cheaper than building Fort Knox. And let me tell you, you're going to need it for $1 in a rut.
Yeah, very economical, the pallet fencing. What equipment do you need to milk a goat? Just your hand?
Sure. Yeah, I use my hand. I only have 4 does of milk this year because we sold out our Guernseys and everything. So for hand milking is great. I haven't even whipped out the milk machine because it takes longer to clean that than just clean a bucket. So hand milking is where we started, and that's where we usually end up being by the time we sell down to our numbers that we want. And your hands are a great tool. Some people can't hand milk because of various reasons, whether carpal tunnel or anything like that, especially if you're milking a ton of goats. So there's plenty of milk machines out there for anybody to look up. And I suggest it's kind of like picking your breed. You're going to pick one that suits you best. The one thing I will say is I see a ton of milk machines out there that do not pulsate. That is terrible for the health of that goat's teat and udder. It's going to cause a lot of damage. I know it's really cool to squeeze the thing and it goes right up and the milk comes down and it looks great. I'm going to tell you right now, it's painful to watch. I've seen plenty of videos. It might be a cheaper option for you, but it's going to be more expensive in the long run with the damage you're going to cause to that goat. So whether you get a caprolite machine or an old used any machine out there, make sure it's got a pulsator and make sure it works and make sure it's hitting the right PSI, which should be anywhere from 11 to 12.
Very good. Now, you mentioned pasteurization for the kids, but for human consumption, do you have to or do you filter or pasteurize the milk?
I love raw milk. I grew up on a dairy farm with Holsteins. I love if I could, I'd have a bulk tank that was chilled and just go grab a mason jar and fill it up, right? Like I used to. I don't have that many goats, don't need that. So what we do is I hand milk and I bring out a little bucket that's got ice in it. And I put the bucket in while I'm milking. So it's starting to chill the milk right away. Because that's the key to getting the goaty flavor out of goat milk. So what you're going to do is you're going to milk your goat, bring it inside, and then on Amazon, you can buy the filters and you can either put it on a strainer or whatever and just pour the milk into a mason jar and it's getting filtered right away. And then what I do is I throw it in the freezer actually for another 15 to 20 minutes to let it cool even faster. And then we're good to go. So I like raw milk. People will pasteurize milk. And just like for the kids, what we do is we throw it on the oven at 150 degrees for 30 minutes. You want to keep it at that 150, and that's going to pasteurize the milk.
You have 4 milking does. How you set them up? How long does it take to milk them? And do whatever you need to do to the milk You're
Sure.
doing it every 12 hours, but like how long is each process?
I will say definitely invest in a milk stand, whether if you build it yourself or buy it from any place. So we have a couple different options here. But to milk our goats for our four, I milk at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. And just with my work schedule, that's how it works. So it takes me to milk those four does about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, sometimes longer. If I have a doe that's kind of a heavy producer, I let them take their time eating their food on the milk stand. And I could be waiting 15 minutes for that doe. It depends on which animal it is. I have another one that she looks at air and gains weight. It just it totally depends. So anywhere from, I'd say average 20 minutes.
And you mentioned that you can make soap and cheese, or you could just drink the milk. Do you have a favorite place to go for soap or cheese recipes, or are you using the same, two recipes over and over again? Do you experiment?
My wife's the soap maker, and I'll tell you right now, she goes on Pinterest. She gets ideas from just looking at anything online, and she gets all the oils that she needs and makes it up, and she does a great job. So I'm totally hands off with that. I think she's worried I'm going to burn myself or something. I don't know. As far as cheeses, there's awesome cheese groups on Facebook that you can join, and there's a lot of really awesome recipes on there. I mean, people are adding crazy. They'll add ghost peppers, and you're like, oh, that's going to be terrible. Delicious, delicious. People are making ice cream out of the milk,
Yeah.
and there's just cool recipes. So I suggest anybody that gets dairy goats to definitely join different Facebook groups about goat milk, and you'll find some pretty cool recipes on there to try.
I do need to go back to milking the goats. Are there reoccurring health problems, or like what are some like pitfalls that could
Sure.
happen when
Yeah,
you're
there can definitely be reoccurring issues when milking your dairy goats, and it's all about your management style. If you've got a lot of mud around your place, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out and kind of keep where they're bedding down clean, especially, but keep the areas where they're at clean. I know mud's a huge problem, but you don't need a ton of mud and dirt and other stuff on your milk stand while you're milking and all that good stuff. So it's really important when you get that dough on the milk stand that you wipe down those teats, and that's cleaning off any bacteria. I do a pre-dip with iodine dip where I'll dip the teats and then wipe them down again. And that's just to ensure that they're really clean. And then I'll strip out a couple squirts onto the ground, usually for my cat, and I'll milk them out. And then again, I'll take Fight Back and I'll spray their teats again. And that's just to ensure that everything's clean. Cleanliness is key. The issue with that, if you're thinking, why does that matter? They can get mastitis. And mastitis can be a reoccurring issue, or it can even turn into gangrene mastitis, where it's a terrible infection. They'll lose either the whole udder or half the udder. They can die. It gets pretty nasty. So udder health is with dairy goats is by far like your main concern. You want to keep that goat healthy.
All right, John, the last question for listeners who want fresh, spicy jalapeno goat cheese, but they might be thinking it's more trouble than it's worth. Do you have some inspirational words about keeping dairy goats and to get these people to, go off the ledge and take the
Oh yeah.
step into starting dairy goats?
Well, I think especially for like the homesteader crew out there, people that want backyard goats or livestock, whatever, they get kind of scared off by the YouTubers that have tried goats and it didn't work for them. And so they're telling you, stay away from them. They're terrible. It's not the case. There's definitely livestock animals for each person, right? Now, I'm not a boar goat guy. I'm not a cow guy. I'm a dairy goat guy. That's what I've chosen. I've gotten rid of chickens and everything else because that's what works for me. So there's going to be an animal that works for you. And dairy goats are easily probably one of those animals. They're easy to keep as long as you keep them healthy. That's the thing. They're not a set it, forget it like a meat goat. They need to be taken care of. It's supposed to be a relationship with the animal. right? You work with them every day. You create this bond. It's really fun. That's the thing with farming. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy going out to that barn every day. And with these dairy goats, it's not just a meat thing, which, hey, we didn't even mention, if you get Nubians, they're kind of a dual purpose breed. So you get the best of both worlds. These dairy goats also give you milk. And I mean, my daughter, dairy goats give you milk. And hey, they're really easy to get along with. My daughter is 2, and she goes up and helps me with chores, helps me with feeding babies. It's a family experience, and it's really just enjoyable. I think everybody should, even if you're on the fence about it, don't just look on YouTube and see what's going on. Go out to and find a goat farm, see if you can call them up, make an appointment to go help them with chores, meet their animals, and see if you like them that way.
I appreciate you saying that farming should be enjoyable and fun. And earlier when you were mentioning that you milk them at 11 a.m. and 11 p.m., I was thinking those 2 times would be like really nice to have like a little meditation moment and just like a quiet, peaceful activity that also provides food for your family. And you could also make money from doing that.
Absolutely. You know, my grandma used to yell at my grandfather back in the day when he was milking his Holsteins and he wouldn't make it to Sunday service. She would say, you need to go to church more often. They lived on a big farm up on a hill. And he said, every morning I go to church on the hill. And that's what I do in my barn with the dairy goats. It's my meditation. It's my moment for me.
Well, thank you so much, John, for speaking with us. Our conversation on dairy goats has been very educational and inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you.
We thank you, the listener, for joining our podcast and encourage you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and family. To listen to more podcasts, visit our website, motherearthnews.com. You can also follow our social media platforms from that link and ask questions for future podcasts. And remember, no matter how brown your thumb is, you can always cultivate kindness.
You've just heard our episode about dairy goats. You can reach us at podcast@ogdenpubs.com with any comments or suggestions. Our podcast production team includes Jessica Mitchell, John Moore, Kenny Coogan, and Alyssa Warner. Music for this episode is Travel Light by Jason Shaw. This Mother Earth News and Friends podcast is a production of Ogden Publications. Learn more about us at motherearthnews.com.
We here at Mother Earth News enjoy hosting in-person fairs, and you can see a list of upcoming locations at motherearthnewsfair.com. We are also excited to present you with the opportunity to get that self-reliant, can-do content for the whole family right from your own home. All you have to do is go to online.motherearthnewsfair.com and sign up for your favorite programs. Use the code FAIRGUEST for $5 off at checkout.
Our last fair of 2023 is coming up in West Bend, Wisconsin, September 16th to 17th. Until next time, don't forget to love your mother.